One of the interesting things about fear is it creates what I call the win-lose mindset, which is if you win, I lose. If you lose, I win, versus kind of a market mindset, which says we can all win together. We can all come together and exchange things and create value for each other in ways that will help all of us. I've been in Silicon Valley now for over 40 years, and one of the things that drew me was this sense of opportunity-based narrative. They are driven by, they're focused and excited about the potential to achieve things that have never been achieved before that are very positive.
All right, welcome to the Academy on YouTube's video channel. Today we have John Hagel, proficient author, entrepreneur, and with us at the Principal Business Summit in New York City. And he has graciously agreed to talk with us a little bit about capitalism and other important things that, well, that's why we're sitting down to talk with him. Hello, John.
Hi, great to be here.
John, so the first thing I'd like to start off with today, we are at the New York Principal Business Summit. Sort of the slogan, official or unofficial, is capitalist for capitalism. In all of your experience, what do you see as the biggest challenge facing the future of capitalism?
Well, there's certainly many challenges, but if I have to pick out the greatest challenge, it would probably be the spreading emotion of fear around the world. I think, and specifically when I talk about fear, I'm talking about fear of the future. When you look into the future, do you see it primarily as a threat or as an opportunity? I think more and more people are seeing the future as very threatening, very scary. I don't want to go there. And it's understandable. I think we studied long-term trends that are shaping our global economy and society for decades. And the trends are, on the one side, creating mounting performance pressure on all of us. Pace of change is accelerating. Things we thought we could count on are no longer there. Competition is intensifying on a global scale. We're not just competing as companies or organizations. We're competing as individuals with workers all over the world. And then, as if that weren't enough, because of all the connectivity we've created, a small event in a faraway place in the world quickly cascades into an extreme disruptive event, leaves us scrambling to figure out what to do. That's a lot of pressure. And so I think on the one hand, fear is very understandable given the trends that are playing out. But the interesting thing, I love paradox, and these same long-term trends that are creating mounting performance pressure are creating exponentially expanding opportunity. Things, today we can create much more value with far less resource, far more quickly than would have been imaginable a few decades ago. But the challenge is if we're driven by fear, we can't even see the opportunities, much less pursue them. And I think one of the consequences of fear is people are wanting more stability. They want things they can hold on to and count on. And so the result, I think, is it's one of the things driving the growing demand for more regulation around all markets and around the world. And it's calling for autocratic leaders, people who are strong, who can help stabilize things and keep us from, going into this chaotic movement. So I think that to me is one of the biggest factors that's now driving the challenges to capitalism as an economy and market.
No, that's interesting. It's always seemed advantage that those in the state have, where they can say, "I will provide X, Y, and Z," whether they actually do it or not. But they say it. People get that in their head. Whereas if they ask somebody who champions the market, it's like, "Well, I don't know what will be provided. I don't know who will do it. I know it will come about," and it's yeah, it's not certain answers, and at least in the way people crave. I'd like to follow up
No.
because I know you've written about this, and I think your point about fear is because if you're afraid of change and afraid of the future, yeah, that doesn't bode well for innovation. What one or two things could maybe you suggest or put out there as ways maybe people could deal with the fear, or better ways to handle it, think about it, frame it? How can we deal with this fear such that it lowers our anxiety so that we're more open to innovation?
Well, I've written a whole book on this. It's called The Journey Beyond Fear, and it's because I'm so passionate about the need for us to move beyond the fear and cultivate other emotions that will help us to have more impact that's meaningful to ourselves and to the people around us. And so there are many different elements. It's hard to summarize a book in 2 minutes, but a key thing is the focus on what I call narratives, which is views of the future and calls to action based on the future. And I believe it increasingly around the world, we're being driven by threat-based narrative. The enemy's coming to get us. We're all going to die. We need to mobilize now and resist. Who's articulating an opportunity-based narrative? What amazing things could we accomplish if we all came together? And even be a bit controversial perhaps, but I think that a lot of the market people who have favored the market are focused on the threat. It's all about the government and the regulation and the things that are going to hold us back and make it impossible for us to thrive. What about focusing on, again, on the opportunity that markets can create? What is the opportunity, and why do we all need to come together to support that? And that's, I think, something that's really needed and could be very valuable in terms of helping people to move beyond the fears, helping them to see the opportunities. And then it's also, again, a lot of different elements come together in the book, but based on research, I've become a strong proponent of a specific form of passion. I call it the passion of the explorer, and I believe we all have it within us, all have the passion of the explorer within us, but very few of us have made the effort to find it, much less pursue it. And I believe the people who really succeed in markets and in society in general are those who have this passion, and specifically, it's focused on having more and more impact in a specific domain, excited about having that impact. It could be anything from gardening to nuclear physics, but they're driven to have more and more impact and learn as they go. And many elements in the passion of the explorer, but one of the key elements is people with this passion are constantly asking for help from others. They recognize no matter how smart or talented they are, they're going to achieve a lot more if they have help from others. And so they're building very strong trust-based networks of relationships that help them to be more successful and have more impact. And people have that passion of the explorer. Yes, they feel some fear. They recognize there are risks in what they're trying to do because they're going into areas no one's ever gone before, but they're driven by the excitement of achieving that impact, which helps them to overcome the fear and move forward.
With the closing of the rather obvious frontier a long time ago physically, your passion of the explorer seems to be looking for frontiers and the importance of the narrative in the story. Is that one of the things that the narrative in the story does, is identify what those frontiers are, those hopeful frontiers? Is that how you see that working?
Yeah, it's first of all, I'll just clarify it. I believe there's a big distinction between stories and narratives.
Oh,
So for me, stories are self-contained. They have a beginning, a middle, and an end to it, the end. And it's about me, the storyteller, or about some other people, real or imagined. It's not about you. If we're talking about narrative, it's open-ended. There is no resolution yet. There's some kind of threat or opportunity in the future, and not clear whether it's going to be achieved or not. And the key is the call to action to say, you're going to help determine how this plays out. So I think that that's a powerful way to motivate people to come together and act. And
would you agree or disagree then in that framing, actually capitalism is a lived narrative ongoing?
well, it's a lived narrative in the sense that I think the people who are most successful in the markets in capitalism are driven by a sense of opportunity and really pursuing it. But I think that that's again becoming less and less prevalent, and we're holding back now because of fear. And it's one of the interesting things about fear is it creates what I call the win-lose mindset, which is if you win, I lose. If you lose, I win, versus kind of a market mindset, which says we can all win together. We can all come together and exchange things and create value for each other in ways that will help all of us.
Are there any narratives that currently exist out there that you like to refer people to look at or think about? Or is this indeed what your book tries to develop and we should pay due attention? We should anyway.
Yeah. No, well, there are many narratives out there. I've been in Silicon Valley now for over 40 years. And one of the things that drew me to Silicon Valley was the sense of opportunity based narratives. they are driven by, they're focused and excited about the potential to achieve things that have never been achieved before that are very positive. And today, I think, again, there are many different opportunities out there, but certainly one of the key ones is artificial intelligence as a technology. What can we accomplish if we really unleash artificial intelligence? And it can help us to learn faster and achieve much more. And then there's other technologies like biosynthesis and technology related to our biology, where the opportunity for us to live a lot longer and a lot healthier and well lives is becoming very significant. And that's very exciting to some of the entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley who really see that as worth pursuing.
I teach. I've been teaching for a while, and there seems to be a growing, I don't know if you want to say displeasure or maybe it's angst, but the students don't seem to be tapped into this passion of the explorer. And that might be some of my fault, but have you seen any ways or know of any that would be, effective avenues to tap those students into those narratives, to tap them into looking for their frontiers? Can you give any guidance on how we can connect to people who might see themselves as not in that narrative?
Yeah. Well, again, it's complicated. We all have different backgrounds and things that are shaping our lives. And so it's hard. But I think the starting point is really helping to frame and help people to see what exciting opportunities are in the future that they could be pursuing, but that have to be pursued. They're not going to happen automatically. We need action in order to do it. And I think that that's a key element is, moving beyond the notion of ideas or everything, just read the book, learn the things, and, you're going to be successful. No, it's acting based on what you know, but more importantly, acting based on what you don't know. What are the things you need to learn in order to address this emerging opportunity that's out there? Because I think, again, in a rapidly changing world, the key is what we don't know versus what we actually know, and how do we learn faster together?
As we near the end of our interview here, any final advice to students or anything you could say to them, maybe something particular to read or go into or
Well, there's a lot to read for sure. I again mentioned my book, The Journey Beyond Fear, but if I had to mention another book that has been very influential for me, it's a book by a professor called Carol Dweck, and her book is called Mindset. And the interesting thing is she makes a distinction between what she calls a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And her belief is the most successful people in the world are going to be those who embrace a growth mindset, which is it's all about growth and achieving much more and learning faster than just assuming that everything's already out there and it's just a question of how much we get. No, it's a question of how much value can we create, new value can we create. And I think that's this whole notion of learning. And I talk about learning, again, I have to distinguish because in business, when I talk about learning to executives, they say, oh, we do learning. We have training programs. You go to these sessions and you listen to somebody and you learn what they knew. That's sharing existing knowledge. And I don't want to dismiss that. But in a rapidly changing world, the most valuable and necessary form of learning is learning in the form of creating new knowledge that never existed before. And in that context, my belief is one of the keys to that is finding your passion, being excited about an opportunity that will drive you to learn and take more risk because that kind of learning is risky. You're doing things that have never been done before. And then another element, which is again is part of my research, is if you're committed and excited about learning in the form of creating new knowledge, you're going to do that a lot better and faster if you come together in a small group. And my experience is it's anywhere between 3 to 15 people who share your passion, your excitement about that opportunity and the ability to learn, and will constantly, on the one side, be supporting each other as they take risks, but on the other side, challenging each other to say, how can we do even more to get even better impact in the future? And in my experience, those people are those people come together in these small groups. I call them impact groups. Ultimately, learn a lot faster and achieve a lot more impact than they do if they're just sitting there by themselves trying to think about it or talk about it, whatever. So,
If you're watching this, go back and watch that segment again. But one thing I do want to pull out, and that's amazing, rather than students being reinforced with the belief that they are passive receptors of knowledge, actually to believe, and I hadn't heard this before, that they are actually creators of knowledge, can be creators of knowledge,
yeah.
and that they can, and they will and should, but that they can take an active, exciting part to have to sit there and take what comes to them.
Absolutely. It's ultimately about action and again being clear about what's the impact you're trying to achieve. So it's not just acting for the sake of action, it's saying because I want to achieve some specific results and then constantly reflecting on did I achieve those results from my action? How can I take evolve my actions so that I can have even more impact over time? And that's really what again excites people with the passion of the explorer. But my bottom line advice, I have some children of my own, and my only advice to them when they were growing up was look for your passion, find what really, really excites you, and don't stop until you have found that passion, and then find a way to make a living from it because that's what's really going to excite you and motivate you and help you to achieve the impact that's very meaningful to you and to everyone else.
Well, thank you very much, John, for joining us and sharing that with us. We will, of course, post a link to your book on Amazon for those who would like and should go on and do some further reading. And I want to thank you all for watching. If you like the video, please make sure to hit the like and hit subscribe so that you don't miss a video. And thank you, John Hagel, and we will talk to you all later.
Great. Thank you.
I and I'm gonna leave this running now because there's just a pause and they can edit stuff off, but I wanted to ask you a question, and
Yeah.
I can leave this on there or not, but
Yeah.
it's a segue and it isn't. Your story narrative distinction made me worry about the question, but
Yeah.
when I cut my teeth on sci-fi writers, 70s and the 80s,
Yeah.
it was about exploring worlds and new stuff, and it was really, I mean, you get monsters and you had wars and stuff, but it was really, and I say this liking the post-apocalyptic genre, but it seems now that science fiction's just taking, as you said, with that, just a dark turn.
Yeah.
Do you see that as part and parcel of the whole thing?
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. I had the same experience when I grew up as a child. I was reading a lot of science fiction, and it was because the future was so utopian. There were so many wonderful things that were ahead of us, and it really excited and inspired me. But today, when I read science fiction, it's all dystopian. It's all about the terrible things that are going to happen to us, the crises, the battles, the wars. And I think it feeds the fear. I mean, if that's what the future is, we're right to be afraid.
And would it be correct to say that you think that the narrative is just as important as the theory behind it?
Yes, no, it's absolutely this focus again on something that is yet to be achieved and a call to action to others. Science fiction is still in the story mode of that the future's already here, it's already been done, and there's no call to action. It's read my book, I guess, is the call to action. But to me, the most effective narratives are no, this hasn't yet happened, and you need to act, and we need to come together and act so that we can achieve this future together.